Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special breaking news edition here of our USC Trojans Live on the Voice of College Football channel. We've got big news for Trojan fans everywhere. After a few months' wait, USC has officially named Jennifer Cohen, formerly of the University of Washington, as our new AD starting tomorrow. Guys, Jen Cohen is USC's 10th AD. What do you think?
Well, you called a long time ago, Tony. It was one of the first names you brought up when we were talking about possible replacements for Mike Bohn at her time at a big boy school up in Washington with proud athletic heritage and a huge budget. Primes her for a great position. What do you think, Rick?
Yeah, this was I thought, an outstanding hire, a home run hire, and the timing couldn't be better. I think we're seeing a pattern here when it's quiet, kind of like it was on Saturday before the storm. Well, let me tell you what, Carol Folt hit one of those moonshots she's been talking about. Okay, first off, hiring Lincoln Riley, then going to the Big Ten. And now that we're hearing about what happened with in the LA Times article with how USC went to the Big Ten, maybe Carol Folt played a bigger role than maybe we anticipate. One will never know. But then to pull off this hire and basically take Washington's AD from a Pacific Northwest rival in the Pac-12 and now going to the Big Ten and them going at 50%, and you take their AD 5 days before the season starts, who would have thought of that Hollywood story, really?
I think it's exciting. And you guys mentioned it. We talked about this a while ago. Those of you guys who follow the show, the day Mike Bohn resigned, we did an emergency podcast group there, and we talked about who the candidates would be. And, we pointed out 4 sort of world-class ADs and hoped it would be possibly Jen Cohen, which was pretty exciting. And then we took a look, as we came up closer to the process here and said, who might it be? And, again, continuing to hope for Jen Cohen along with some other great candidates. And sure enough, word came out this morning at, probably about 9 a.m. Eastern, maybe like 6 a.m. Pacific, I think it started leaking out. Maybe a little later that USC had a special announcement, and we quickly found out Jen Cohen was coming to join us. Now, guys, I think she has a really interesting background for USC because she worked in athletics and then moved over to fundraising and actually ran fundraising for Washington before coming back to lead the athletic department first as an interim athletic director and then hired as a full-time athletic director. What do you think about her career success and focus on fundraising, where Washington, by the way, in case you guys don't know, Washington is just a fundraising behemoth. So that will be, I think, really helpful for USC.
Well, it's obviously quite a feather in your cap if you are good at fundraising. Being the athletic director is a huge part of the job. Matter of fact, I think that the running joke and criticism was that previous ADs were some smiley faces that could talk to the rich alumni and to get some of those donation dollars. But this one here, it seems like it's we've done what you've been asking, Tony. USC again is finally starting to act like a big boy when it comes to athletics, like it's always been over the past century, and they're doing the right things. Carol Folt, Jen Cohen, in her announcement, basically said that she really sees the vision that Carol Folt's doing. That Carol Folt does put athletics, bar none. She said Carol Folt does a great job of making seeing the importance of athletics within the university, and that bodes well for USC. Rick, what are your thoughts?
Well, I've been very impressed because USC is acting like USC. So many college football fans in the Pac-12 and outside of the Pac-12 are not used to seeing USC act like this, but they are fully integrated. And credit to Carol Folt and Mike Bohn and the university for rebuilding the athletic department, the infrastructure, and Brandon Sosna. Not to forget Brandon Sosna, they did a great job. And then, to hire Lincoln Riley to navigate to the Big Ten, those are big boy moves. And then the transition team they had with Sandy Barber, and I think Carol Folt complimented Denise Kwok and and getting everything that they would need to get a world-class AD like Jen Cohen. And as you mentioned, she had been at the University of Washington for, I think, a couple decades, I think 25 years. And one of her strengths is fundraising. And that is going to be huge at SC because there's a lot of capital improvement projects that are happening and that we talked about over the summer with the new football athletic facility, Dado Field happening, and the new soccer field, McAllister, the soccer and lacrosse women's facilities. Who knows, there might be future sports because they have a plan, and she's coming aboard at the right time, and then obviously to transition to the Big Ten. And lastly, she was just named this past April or May to the College Football Playoff Committee. Only the second woman to be named. I think the only other woman was Condoleezza Rice, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yeah.
Is that correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. So outstanding.
And yeah, well, won't it be nice? We finally have somebody with our interests in mind on the college.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Perfect timing.
Finally.
Yes.
Finally. Can she get on the baseball one too? Because that came back to haunt us last year.
Well, it was weird. Did you guys catch that during the announcement? She kind of said, well, I'm going to look at what all my, because someone asked a question about that she's also on the committee. And it took kind of weird. She would say, well, I'll look at what, I have to do here and then go from there. But I mean, it's nice having her in that position. I definitely hope she doesn't step down, take care of other things. I really do hope, again, I don't know. And there's a bunch of people out there on the internet and Twitter freaking out, making this about a gender hire or a politically correct hire. And the fact is you guys are really demeaning what this person has accomplished as a leader and as an administrator. I don't think, and your fear can be set aside because I don't think someone like Carol Folt and the board of trustees is put the kind of money and talk about all like Rick said, all of those the football only facilities are talking about doing the millions and millions of dollars doing that, getting a guy like Lincoln Riley and paying him $100 million plus on a contract, and then going to neglect football. So all this freaking out that you're seeing somewhere, it just needs to chill out a little bit because every decision so far was questioned by the Twitterati out there and all the people on the message boards. Mike Bone was lambasted. Folt was an enemy in the beginning, and then everyone kind of came around. I think people need to settle down and let the adults and let the professionals do their job, and then we could take a look at the results and make our decisions. But it was a bit disappointing. I got to say to you, Trojan fans out there, not all of you, but some of your reactions were very childish, and it's getting kind of worrisome sometimes. Well, and I looked at the people, like the industry people. I looked at the reporters, and I mean, one of the things that I laughed about is they were laughing and saying, "Wow, USC just went out and hired a great athletic director, something USC never does."
Yeah, so Bruce Feldman from The Athletic stated that, and Bruce Feldman it's hard to get a compliment from Bruce Feldman on USC. It is. But you know what? Rightly so, because we haven't been acting like USC for the past 10 to 12 years. So for him to come out and say that, and all the accolades that Jen Cohen's got, they checked everywhere, and she is well regarded within the athletic director community and university community, hands down. Yeah, I think it's really exciting for USC. Hey, by the way, we are here tonight. We'd love to hear what you think about the excitement of Jen Cohen joining USC's athletic department. So if you want, we'll put the link in the chat as well. But we'd love to have you guys call and join the show and hear what you think. So we'll leave this up. I couldn't get over the overwhelming reaction. Washington fans are stunned tonight. This I think hit them like a ton of bricks. Well, she did say she was fully invested. She says, although during this whole process there was a question about, was she conflicted handling both positions, and she very clearly said I was 100% getting the Washington into the Big Ten, and they did it, and Washington did it without Big Daddy Phil's big money. It just shows you that how favorable the Big Ten does look on, as you said earlier, Tony, as far as Washington, their research as a university, a top university on the West Coast, but also just the heritage and the football heritage of the Washington Huskies and their programs in general. So it really does help also to know that a person like Jen Cohen was a main force behind
getting them into the Big Ten. And that bodes well. It shows there's relationships already built for her as we transition into the Big Ten. Her relationships with the Big Ten leaders and leadership over there is definitely going to help out USC as far as having that familiarity when it comes to our transition.
Yeah, and I mean, she got, congratulations from Martin Jarman, I mean, from all kinds of folks. I also thought we saw a lot of alignment. So a couple people spoke today, and I thought it was pretty significant to see the roles that they had in this process. We had, obviously, Dr. Folt spoke. We also had Suzanne Nora Johnson, who was the USC chairman of the USC Board of Trustees. She's a former vice chairman of Goldman Sachs. We had our Provost Guzman, who's fairly new to USC, but he's a provost. And we had the faculty athletic rep, who sort of is the liaison, sort of the ambassador from the faculty to the athletic department. And they all had very clear alignment. And I thought it was really interesting to sort of see, because she's been at Washington and been so involved with USC for so long, she knows these people. She knows Dr. Folt. She knows our athletic department. And I think that is going to be a big help for her going forward as well.
Tony, I noticed two things in the press conference I was waiting to ask you, and it's great that we have our viewers here and so they can hear your answer. But two things that distinctly came out was Provost Guzman talked about the relationship with the AAU and the Big Ten academic, correct me if I'm saying it wrong, but the academic
alliance.
That was the first one, if you can comment on that. And then secondly, Carol Folt just kind of reminded everybody that she's the president of the AAU. So she was wielding a big old hammer. Yes.
She put a little bit of a boss move on that too, didn't she?
Yes. So comment on that.
I love, so somebody said something to Jen Cohen. I forget the question, but it had something to do with the Big Ten and the ADs. And Dr. Folt said, well, above the ADs are the president. And we were together all the time. By the way, one thing she mentioned was that today Dr. Folt, was speaking with Dr. Kause, the president at Washington, sort of making amends in that, hey, sorry, we're still in Jen. Don't hate us. We let you in the Big Ten. Don't hate us. But talking about the role that the presidents play in that oversight process. And I thought it was a pretty good thing. And of course, Dr. Folt is chair of the AAU. And her vice chair, by the way, is the chancellor from Illinois, who is chairman of the Big Ten. So, every so often people will say to me, like, oh, well, dumb people will say, well, the Big Ten doesn't talk to USC. I'd be like, oh, the Big Ten talks to USC all the time at all levels. They talked a lot about also, they mentioned there's like a countdown clock on the wall of counting down the days till we join the Big Ten officially. And I thought you could also see the relationship Jen has with Sandy Barber, of course, former Cal AD, former Penn State AD, who's been really sort of filling in, I think, a lot of the external and the Big Ten planning role for us during this transition time. And it sounds like she may be around for a little bit.
I thought it was extraordinary that we had all these speakers speak at this press conference, but looking at it, I think they wanted to give a message to the college football world and to the Big Ten that we are fully aligned, from the president to the board of trustees to the academic side of USC, the importance, the AAU alliance, the Big Ten, going to the Big Ten not only academically, but athletically, and we are ready. So we're coming, and we're counting. We got a countdown happening. So everybody's on notice. The real USC is back, and it's a wonderful thing to be a Trojan. Fight on.
Fight on. Okay, guys.
Really quick, Tony. I just want to say thank you to Slap Happy for the $2 super chat. And also, Rick alluded to it last night on the Conquest show. You guys, if you want to be on top of everything here at instances like this, where we're going to have just a pop-up, news is going to break throughout the entire year. So the best way for you guys to stay on top of that is if you guys are also subscribed. So if you got a second, please go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button for us. Hit that notification bell so if we get a new athletic director, hopefully not for a long time, but if we get news like that, it's going to be right here on the Voice of College Football USC. And again, the best way to do it is just to go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button, and make sure you hit that bell notification so you'll be notified whenever we go live.
Now, hey guys, can I tell you something I think was kind of funny that I read just a little bit ago?
What's that?
So the Washington fans are not real happy tonight. And one of the things I love this fear coming from a Washington fan. My biggest fear with Cohen going to USC is the eventual poaching of DeBoer and company. This is somebody who thinks that Lincoln Riley may go to the NFL at some point, and Washington fans are already afraid.
I really like Kalen DeBoer, but I'm gonna have to say that I think if Riley were to leave, I do believe I think we'd be aiming a little bit higher, but I'll leave it there.
So,
I actually agree with you, Tim.
the question I have here, and if you wouldn't mind putting up that slide again, there was an interesting line there, Tony, if you would.
Yeah.
The quote. She understands the underrated value with UW staff. Underrated. Maybe I misunderstood that, but less than 3 weeks ago, Washington went for 50% to the Big Ten, and now they lose their AD to a team that's in the Pac-12 going to the Big Ten. I think this whole past year, there's been a discussion with conference realignment and brand value. I think people are starting to realize the brand value that is USC, that was USC, that Larry Scott totally misrepresented and misunderstood and never really cared about. But today, people are recognizing the value when you can go take an AD from the University of Washington. That is, it's a step-up job. And people in Pacific Northwest know that, because if it comes to football coaching at Oregon, they're like a stepping stone job. So USC today kind of made Washington a stepping stone job. And here you have the worry that DeBoer might be the next USC coach should Lincoln Riley leave. I mean, that's the mentality that was created today. There was a seismic shift. That hurricane earthquake just hit Seattle today.
Well, and not only that, but she's starting tomorrow, like 9 a.m. She's at Heritage Hall tomorrow. So, usually these things have a month, 2 month, there's like a little transit. No, she's starting tomorrow, which I thought was pretty wild, because today was actually the first day of classes. And I understand most of the department didn't know about this today either. Ryan Abraham talked on his show a little bit about just the fact that the coaches were there like, wow, here we go.
Everything's not about optics, but I'm glad to see that they got an AD in place before the football season started, to have that person behind the scenes. This might be a really special year for USC, and it's good to have that kind of leadership, in place going into a very pivotal, important football season.
Absolutely.
By the way, just because we can laugh at ourselves, and because laughing at ourselves is important, I have enjoyed the various barbs from our Bruin friends throughout the day. They've had some good ones. David Woods, our good friend of the show, Search. There have been many that are actually pretty funny.
Would Search be happier if we would have taken Martin Jarmond?
Oh, they would have lost their minds if we'd taken Martin Jarmond.
There you go, Search. We gave you a little concession there.
I heard he came in a close second behind Jen. Otherwise, we probably would have taken her, because or him. Sorry.
Oh, too funny, guys! What an exciting day. Hey guys, we love to know what you think. So I'll put the link in the chat again. Tell us what you guys think. Jen Cohen coming to USC. Big news.
I got a question for you, Tim. How many days left till USC football, Tim?
Let's see. So we have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 5 days.
Is there 5? 5 days?
5 days.
5 days, baby, right there.
Getting close.
And she'll be there on the sidelines. You know who else thought this was a great hire? Yogi.
Who?
Yogi Roth. Raved about it.
One thing I love about Yogi Roth, more than anything else, I love it, great choice. But you know what I love about Yogi? Has he ever not liked something?
Right.
That dude is the most optimist. He's the eternal optimist. I'm not. He can be objective. I don't want to go that level, but the guy just is full of optimism. But he does know. He knows the Pac-12 like the back of his hand. So him coming out and saying something is great to hear.
I think if Yogi, what I've typically found is when Yogi doesn't like something, he bites his tongue. So when Yogi comes out with a ringing endorsement, it does mean something. I love this.
I love that guy.
Now the USC is doing things I agree with. I don't know what to do.
Well, it just, I mean, I know we get, me especially, branded homers, etc. But the three people here on this panel, we've known USC long enough to know that it's simply USC just has to get out of its own way. There's certain programs out there, as far as just like athletically, you have your like Stanfords or UCLAs or USCs, your Floridas, right? These schools that just have to get out of their own way and they're going to win national championships. And now it seems like not only is USC not getting out of its way, but there are people in place now that are making the right decisions to hire the right people. It's all about getting the right people. And USC, when you have the right people in place, go from good to elite. And I think that's the momentum that we're seeing. That's the vision that we're seeing through Folt. And I know they say a lot of things, your new boss, but when she very, very clearly stated the reason why she came to USC is because of Folt's commitment to athletics, that really, and it proves out, right? We were all excited when we got Bone and then we got Lincoln and just started rolling in the facilities and the coaches and now this year in the football team, you're looking at all the staff that's in place. USC is now playing like the kind of team and the kind of program that's going to compete for national titles again.
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing is, remember too, she's going to be in charge of running our athletic department through the Olympics, which is a massive big deal. And the work and the commitment and also the benefits that we'll get from that will be fantastic. So I'm excited for it.
I got a question for both of you guys. Wait, Tony, I got a question for both of you guys. So we're being positive. Is there anything negative or any concerns you might have about Jen Cohen being hired for the USC athletic department as athletic director?
I'll tell you one, and I don't mean this in a bad way. I think that when she joined Washington. And guys, anytime you take on a big new job, there's a learning curve. And she joined Washington, and she was on a roller coaster of Washington. That, through the one thing that I think she probably might take back again is she might have been pushed around a little bit in the decision to hire Jimmy Lake. Even though that sort of seemed like a real good idea at the time, I think it can be kind of debated a little bit. The Chris Peterson retirement thing, I think she probably learned a lot because remember, she was in the athletic department, then she moved to run fundraising for the school, then she came back in as AD in a lateral hire across the school administration at Washington. So it was a bit of a different hire. So, you kind of look at some of the stuff that she's done and you can kind of say, okay, was that... You kind of wonder a little bit, did she learn from that? And when I look at how she handled the firing of Jimmy Lake and the hiring of Kalen DeBoer and that team, I thought it was pretty good. The other big negative is a lot of people will look right now at Washington basketball, which is just a train wreck. But one of the things that I had heard is that in their budget situation, they had to choose. Did they want to take that money and pay the buyout of the basketball coach? Or did they want to take that money and invest in Kalen DeBoer's assistant staff? And I understand they basically sacrificed probably another year of this basketball coach, to fund Kalen DeBoer's department. And quite honestly, with due respect to basketball fans, I'm okay with that.
It paid off. All right.
Like I kind of look at that. I'm like, I like the decision you made, Jen. What do you think, LBC?
No, I agree with the way you laid it out, Tony. I'd say the one area where she's going to be questioned is the Jimmy Lake hire. And I think you laid it out perfectly. She was hired back as the AD in 2016, elevated from the fundraising. And Chris Peterson, that was the year they went to the playoff, right? And his sudden retirement and you got to think, not that I know anything, but you would think there's probably some influence. He's leaving. You got a new AD there.
Hard.
Yeah, so she probably had to listen, and you just went to the college football playoff, and this is Chris Peterson's guy. So, and then we know what happened there. But she acted swiftly, so she responded to it. She made a decision. It was a difficult decision, but she made the right decision ultimately. If you look back at it, she hired Kellen DeBoer, and then yes, you outlined Mike Hopkins. That just hasn't worked out, and he was part of the Jim Boeheim tree, if I recall, from Syracuse. Great coach, but for some reason, it just hasn't worked out at the University of Washington. And you just mentioned financially, the challenges there. So yeah, that's what I would. The criticism of Jen Cohen, I think, is those two areas.
Well, now he retired. So he announced his resignation in December, and there's not, sometimes with the coaching goes, it's not always the most optimal time at the end of the season that late to have that dropped on you, and they did grab them. I think the thing is she did make a bad hire, but what's great about leadership is leaders make mistakes. And the ones that try to patchwork it and fix it, we saw that for 6 years here at SC. There was a problem, they saw it, and they corrected it, and then they got a new coach in. They didn't play around. They weren't obstinate. They didn't try to we're gonna try to rebuild the staff. We're gonna reload, like it happened in other schools where you wipe out one staff, you bring in some new coaches and coordinators in. You try to make it work and patchwork it. I think they saw right away it wasn't work. They chopped it off and they started over fresh. And they did. It hurt for a couple of years, but they did get the right guy in place. I think, unfortunately, the hires are going to get wrong. But then in this 1 year, it's kind of hard to tell how DeBoer is going to be in the long run, you guys. I mean, he had a great season last year. We don't know if that's what's going forward. But making the adjustment and then bringing in somebody that is quality, even though you did a screw-up hire, that Lake hire was bad. I do agree the fact that you can make mistakes, but if you can correct them also is also a good sign of leadership.
I think there's a great comment in the chat right now. Do you mind if I read it?
Sure.
LBC Robbie says, Washington is in a better place since I was in high school. These days, for the first time in a while, they are back at the top of the preseason top 10. Our new AD has a ton to do with that. Exactly right, LBC Robbie. They are in the preseason top 10, first time in a long time. They're one of the reasons why the Pac-12 is a very dynamic conference this last year in the Pac-12. And so, yes, the fact that she's been the AD since 2016, and she's been there for a number of years in the department, she has a lot to do with Washington's reemergence as a top 10 program.
Well, and not only that, but she's been instrumental in I'm trying to remember, guys, I should know all this, but their soccer teams, I think, are both two of the best soccer teams in the country. Their softball teams, a big hit. Their baseball teams rapidly improved. Their athletic department across the board has really been on an upswing. They've also gone through huge facility renovations, rebuilding of Husky Stadium, all kinds of stuff. So, she has kind of been there, done that, which I think is going to be really important, for her to have had that experience coming into USC. And, they say this is one of those jobs that they say there's nothing like being in the chair. And in fact, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry, Tony. Finish that thought. Sorry.
I was just saying, and the fact that she's been in that chair at our level for 7 years, working next to our athletic director. She's worked next to 3 of our athletic directors at this point, 4 of 3.5. So I think she probably has a better understanding of us than just about anybody.
I just want to thank LBC Robbie. He was one of the first members of the USC football Voice of College Football channel, and he's still a contributing member. I just want to give you a shout out. Thank you so much for your continued support of the channel. Fight
on, LBC Robbie. And yeah, it's much love to everybody. I think this is a good day. And another good point, Ronald says we don't need a rock star. We need someone to keep the ship on course and let the university do what it does best. I think we sort of saw that today from the press conference, that it seemed like there was, a lot of alignment, knows the direction we want to go in. And, this is not a rebuild. This is almost like we just needed a new head. The rest of the body was fine. We just needed a new head.
I got a chuckle out of Jen AD already using the moonshot verbiage in her speech. So Carol Folt is rubbing off on her, obviously, in the interview and hiring process. So she understands what a moonshot is, and she's going to take it and run with it. So she's got a few of them to execute with the baseball field, the soccer lacrosse, and the football facility, as well as question was asked by Ryan Abraham, I think the first question about NIL. So everything will be addressed.
We got our first caller. We got Jackson Johnson joining us. Jackson from welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me on, guys. How's it going?
Hey,
Good,
what an
yeah.
exciting day.
I know,
What'd you do
right?
to
I mean,
hire?
Jennifer Cohen being the new AD for USC. I got to tell you, that's going to be amazing for USC. I'm
Yeah, we hope
impressed.
so.
I know so. It's gonna be fantastic. I mean, when y'all talked a little while ago about how she handled the situation at Washington when Jimmy Lake had to go, she was like, "Okay, we gotta hire Kalen DeBoer," and it's been pretty fantastic since at Washington. So I mean, who knows, mate? Maybe if you see like a bad situation at US, which that's not gonna happen, but if it were, she'll be able to right the ship, so to speak. I mean, who wouldn't want to go to USC, be head coach?
Yeah, they had an exhaustive search. And I like the way she made it very clear to people that she was hired basically for her leadership skills. And as we've been talking about, and she's brought up again, she has shown the ability to make corrections. Also, she's made a lot of great hires, and throughout her career, Tony, you know more about this. I like the one thing I like about when we get a new athletic director is right away who will they be as far as the leadership role and their hiring. Right now, all the hiring is in place. And it's weird because usually they bring in a new guy to hire and then they got rid of Bone right away. So I'm curious to see what the moves be. And I think when Tony said she's a person that is going to do a lot of fundraising, I think that is telling you what her main role is going to be is fundraising right now. Because right now, as far as basketball and football is concerned, we've got our guys. At our baseball guy, we got our baseball guy. So right now we need to get all those facilities they talked about. They haven't broken ground on any of them. I think a lot of money needs to be brought up, and I think Jen Cohen's going to do a lot of that.
Oh, man, it's going to be amazing. That's for sure.
Yeah, and the other thing that was briefly discussed is she has a good record at the University of Washington with their graduation success rate academically. So that has improved, I think, annually since she's been the AD at the University of Washington. That's important because academics and athletics, it's the same at USC. Their graduation success rate has improved, I think, each year under Carol Folt, and that's going to be continued as we go to the Big Ten. So that isn't like she wasn't familiar or didn't have experience with the importance of academics at a university such as the University of Washington.
And just a sheer scale. There are some other people that are out there that had that were candidates, but their schools were not nearly as big as the budgets you need to have at USC. And I do think that, like we talked about, her relationships with the process of getting Washington to the Big Ten, as well as Tony talked about how well she knows USC and USC's culture is going to be very helpful moving forward.
And not only that, but just, one other little thing about her that sort of stands out to me. And, we think about like how experiences help people. Washington has faced some kind of tough budget decisions in the past year. That's actually pretty helpful job training. If you were to think about like the things you'd want your AD skilled at, like how to deal with a budget crisis is one of them. And she just passed that with flying colors. So, hey, Jackson, anything else? We got another caller.
Oh, that's about all. But 5 more days. We got 7 more days till kickoff. Week 0.
By the way, Jackson, you'll appreciate this. John Wilner had a little bit of sass today. Somebody pointed out that I forget who is the night game, the big premier night game on ESPN. It's like a Sunbelt USA team or something.
It's a Conference USA team and an independent
and
team.
UMass.
New Mexico State, UMass.
New Mexico State and UMass is in the prime slot, and USC is on the Pac-12 network.
Yep.
Like, I'm gonna be honest, if it were any other week, I would not be watching UMass New Mexico State. Let's be honest. I mean, I'll be watching all of them, making sure I got. So
That's the beauty of week 0. People just want to watch football, so it doesn't doesn't matter who the teams are. They roll the ball out there and they start kicking the ball around. People will be watching, and that's great.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you for having me on, and it's a big win for USC today.
Thank you, Jackson. Roll Tide.
Thank you, Jackson.
Thanks,
It's
Jackson.
still Greg Byrne. Talk to you soon. Hey, next up, we've got Romney. Welcome, Romney, to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, loud and clear.
Yes, sir.
Here I come. Great. Class of 88. I'm still on USC's #2 steeplechaser. You can look me up on the USC website. I just got my helmet signed by Caleb Williams. I have 8 Heisman signees on my helmet, and really looking forward to this. I wanted to mention, too, it's kind of a payback for Jen Cohen from Washington, because when I was at school, while Mike Garrett was AD, Barbara Hedges, I think, was like assistant AD or something important in the athletic director's area, and she got hired as the athletic director up at Washington. So, hey, payback's a bitch, right?
Well, and I'll tell you, Rick and I were just talking about this. So Jen is our first female AD, and a lot of people really thought Barbara should have been, because Barbara's amazing, and
Yeah, I would agree with that.
She was great in that job, and probably better than anybody we've had since then, quite honestly. And so,
yeah.
it is kind of like, I mean, you said it, it's great poetic justice here.
Right, fight on, guys. I had to buy my season tickets because I'm not going to subscribe to the Pac-10 network.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's better not to. But
Romney,
the good news is,
quick question for you, Romney. I'm the class of 89.
Yeah.
What do you?
Yes, sir.
What's your prediction for the USC's record this year? Well, we have you on the line here. What do you think your USC's record is going to be?
I'm a little scared to say undefeated, but I would say we got 1 loss in us. Now, whether that's Oregon or Notre Dame or Utah, I don't know, but I would be a little bit scared at Oregon mostly.
Okay. Yep. I tend to agree with you on that one. I mentioned it last night that I have USC losing 1 game, and that would be to Oregon. I went out and just put a put a name on it.
Don't be afraid, Romney. Embrace it.
Well,
Just say
unfortunately,
12
too, I think this might go. I think this might also be with the defense. Defense is much improved, but it's still not, SEC defense, let's say, or 2004, 5, 6, 7 defense.
Right.
That we might end up going to the play.
That was the best football call we've had in a long time, and we got dropped.
Call back in, Rob.
We're having a football conversation, and the call dropped.
Call back, Rodney.
Yeah, please do.
That was awesome, man. He had his USC pillow or
his USC plush thing.
Man, he's all ready to go, man. He's like ready to head to the collie.
I like it. Can I tell you guys a really funny? I think we got Romney back.
Okay.
He is back. He's coming back. Maybe coming back.
There he is.
I'm here. Yeah, check out my SC pillow.
Oh, okay.
From Catalina.
All right, man. Are you going to the first game, Rob?
I got cut off. Yeah, I was gonna. We made a loss in the season, and then we probably lose a playoff game, the first playoff game, and then we'll have a bunch of yappity yaps about how we can't win a playoff, or Lincoln Riley can't win a playoff game.
Man, you know the narrative, huh?
I wouldn't trade Lincoln for anybody. Not even what's that guy's name over at Alabama? I can't remember.
Oh, I think we're losing you.
Sorry, we lost on that one. What about Alabama?
I think he said he wouldn't trade Lincoln Riley.
Couldn't take that.
Well, that Nick, what's his name? Yeah, the other guy.
Yeah, but I think we got a bad connection, Romney. But you're a great caller. Call back anytime. Call back after the game. We'll be on the USC post game live, our first edition after the San Jose State game. Romney, congratulations to you, class of '88, and still the record of the steeple. Was he say the steeplechase?
Steeplechase record holder. Yep.
All right, man, that's great.
I messaged my Washington track alum friend who is, I think, 4 letters from them in track, and did not get a response today. So I'm guessing we are.
You got a lot of Washington friends.
I know. I'm guessing we are not happy, or they are not happy with us. So that's all right. Maybe he'll get back to me.
Maybe Sergeant Pickles will call in.
I know. Sergeant Pickles is not happy with us either. There is a lot of unhappiness in Husky Land, and not only is there unhappiness in Husky Land, but there is terror in there's terror right now in Beaverland and Cougland, because 2 of the sort of rumored leading candidates to replace Jen Cohen are Pat Chun from Washington State and Barnes from Oregon State. So the whole pack is destabilized. Hey, I just got a great DM from somebody, a viewer who's watching us, who says, just wanted to point out how important it is. Jen understands the importance of spending to keep great staff. So, like I said, last year when she had to make that choice of, do we fund the football assistant coaches, which they needed, or, and then, kind of eat it for a year in basketball because we won't have the money to hire a new basketball coach. She made that decision, and I think that's really paid off. And I think that's sort of some prioritization that will help reflect for us.
Yeah, sometimes those are just tough decisions, and some people make the right ones, and some people don't. I totally agree with you, Tony. We all know what drives the ship.
Yep, great point, Tony.
Especially at USC. So, what an exciting day. Now, guys, some other news, just kind of ancillary, but I think it's kind of interesting. The ACC presidents are meeting again tomorrow, and we may or may not see Cal and Stanford join the ACC, or we may see Cal and Stanford come with their tails between their legs back to Wazoo and Oregon State and try to rebuild a new Pac-12. What do you guys think about that?
I say I'm getting myself in trouble lately when I make the comments about these rebuilding of conferences, and I there's a lot of great football. You don't have to be a Power 5 level school. Like I said, I love watching all football. I love high school football. I mean, football is amazing. So when I say this, please try to understand. I am coming from an overall college football fan aspect, but will you see what happened in the Big 12? When you have a conference that was a proud, strong conference at one point, and all of your marquee teams leave, and then you start filling in with teams that 15 years ago people would have laughed at you if you had told someone 15 years or 10 years ago these teams are going to be in the Big 12, they would have said you were insane. And unfortunately, I see that the consolidation of football, the loss of regionality in football is going to hurt the sport. I would love for the teams that are remaining, but I have a question. Well, we can answer this question first, but what has Stanford and Cal done in order to help out the conference that they had? Do you know what I mean? And so you're going to build the conference around that. I think it's going to be difficult to and the money wise. How they make the money happen, because they couldn't get money for the Pac-12 as they had it. What is the situation going to be with the new Pac-12? Or are they going to rebrand it, Tony?
So there's a lot of different rumors. Some people think that if they may take a bunch of teams from the American Conference and rename it, keep it the Pac, but call it the Pacific American Conference. Sort of change the old. And interestingly, guys, that just a side little history note, because this may come up in the next couple of weeks. So what today is called the Pac-12 was called the AAWU, but it used the nickname Big Four, and then Big Five when they added Stanford, Big Six when they added Washington State. But when they went to add the 2 Oregons, then they were going to be at 8, but there was already a Big 8. And so they needed a new name. So they said, well, we'll call it the Pacific 8, because there had been before that the Pacific Coast Conference. So it was the PAC, which was sort of unofficially Pacific Athletic Conference. But it was just officially known then as the Pacific 8 and then the PAC 8. So, that's kind of where that name comes from. So some people saying, well, what they could do is call it the Pacific American Conference and take, SMU, Rice, Tulane, Memphis, a few of those teams, rebuild, maybe take a couple of the Mountain West, or if they do lose Stanford to the ACC, then maybe the American would still take Wazoo and the Beavs and create its own all-star league. So lots and lots of really interesting debates, lots of interesting questions. We don't have answers, but we may get some tomorrow. But, one of the things that I think is kind of interesting with this is, I think that, none of that was discussed today. Today was all about Big Ten. It was, we stole the AD from our Big Ten rival, Washington.
Yep.
I'm wondering about the money is the only issue.
Who'd have thought that sentence 2 years ago? Big Ten member at USC steals athletic director from Big Ten rival Washington.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's crazy.
Tim, as for money, remember that, a lot of these departments, most of them typically have Stanford has $160 million budget. Of that,
I can see that. But what about the
25 million is 25 million is media.
And
so
SMU has lots of money too. But I'm talking about just like so what about will they be able to generate enough money in order to, as far as their non-revenue sports, in order to play each other and travel?
Let's keep in mind, a lot of people act like it will be catastrophic for some of the schools, like particularly like Washington State may have a harder time because they have a lower budget. But all these schools are looking at $100 million budgets, of which you're talking about, like right now, I don't know, like 22 or 25 is media. Assuming that gets a massive haircut and gets hit, that goes to 10 or 15. So you're looking at a gap of about $10 million.
Well,
they're going to have to find a way to
what about the Mountain West schools having to travel back east?
Well, that's going to be up to them if they want to join.
Yeah. Okay.
And by the way, remember the Mountain West schools did not want to. A couple of them when they had an opportunity a couple of years ago, because Mike Orozco's first choice, instead of bringing in like Charlotte and Florida Atlantic and those guys, was to pillage the Mountain West, and they kind of said, we'll stay together because the money's about the same, the travel, we kind of like what we have going on here. But you're seeing a separation right now, I think, in interest. And when you look at the success, really a lot of those better programs are in the Mountain West.
I think the longer this potential negotiation, and I use the term negotiation loosely, between Stanford, Cal, and the ACC, as it continues over time, basically
less likely.
It's like the Big Ten. The ACC is going to be like the Big Ten. They are going to name a price that they will accept them, and that is going to be a haircut price, because they've already been voted as a no. But it shows you how much or how little Stanford and or Cal really want to keep the Pac-12 and rebuild it. They do not, because if they did, then they'd be making a stand right now and doing that, but they're not. They are looking to find anything they can to have some type of visibility and get on linear TV, have exposure for their athletes, even if it means losing money and flying across the country. But that's what it tells me. If you're not looking to rebuild the Pac-12, and the longer you negotiate, you're going to be going for pennies on the dollar, and they'll take it. And the ACC knows that. So it's going to be interesting.
Rick, there are rumors. And I don't know if they're true or not, right? Because I don't know who's on the phone with who. But there are rumors that Oregon State and Washington State are constantly on the phone back and forth with each other, talking with Oliver Luck, trying to work things out. And Cal and Stanford are just like right now, they've got Condi Rice completely in their own corner figuring it out. Hey, guys, we've got our Washington Husky extraordinaire, Sergeant Pickles.
There he is.
What's going on, everybody?
Welcome. Quite a day.
Yeah, not the news I expected to see this morning, but I could do without all the Duck fans with their stepping stone jokes. That one got wore out in about the first 5 minutes.
Wait, hold on. They've got no room to talk stepping stone. They lose their coaches to the Florida schools all the time. I mean, if you that's how you warm up for getting a Miami and a Florida State job is go to Oregon.
Right. Yeah, I could definitely do without it. I mean, I'm not gonna really harp on Jen Cohen. A lot of Husky fans are. They're obviously not happy about the news, but 25 years at UW, it's not like she was just in the door and back out again. She saw Washington through good years and bad years, and recently has made some decent hires. There's definitely mixed feelings because she was both responsible for the Jimmy Lake saga and also Mike Hopkins, our basketball coach, but the rumors behind the scenes is she was fully ready to get rid of Mike Hopkins, but the school didn't want to foot the bill for the buyout. So I think overall, my thought is she had a positive tenure, and the Kalen DeBoer hiring looks like a home run. So
I agree with you. I think I've been really impressed with all the stuff she did at Washington. It's it's one of the reasons I was almost a little surprised we were able to steal her.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certain that she got a monetary raise, but honestly, I think it was more like a new challenge thing because you don't have a reason. I mean, Washington's going into the Big Ten, but somebody definitely brought up some good points today. There's a lot of state level politics and dealing with ADs from state schools versus private. Some of those barriers are removed. And also anyone, even as a Husky fan, like USC has a top 5, like desirable AD job in the entire country. Anyone else, it's up there with like an Ohio State and Alabama or, some of those type of schools where you have basically full control and power over a top university. And I can't fault someone for taking a job like that.
And yet before Jen Cohen, our only qualification was you were maybe a football player in the past.
Yeah, I think it kind of highlights the contrast for the last decade of SC. And I know I've had some small disagreements with Tim on Twitter about who's to blame for the last decade of the Pac. And I put some of that at the foot of SC and not getting their house in order. But I think this is definitely going to be a righting the ship type move.
The good news for that is if you're a USC Trojan is that pretty much nobody had their ship in order for the entire decade. So
Washington did what we could, tried to hold it afloat.
And Utah did. But
Utah
USC,
doesn't get enough love.
UCLA, Arizona State, Arizona, Colorado, Cal. I guess Stanford had a couple good years, but
hey, Sergeant Pickles, you could probably help me out with an Oregon question. Is Willie Taggart still in coaching?
I'm actually not sure. That's a great question.
There you go. He wanted to go back home. He wanted to go back home to Florida. Speaking of stepping stone.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a path. Oregon is very short term in their decisions. I mean, didn't they just lose their president to Northwestern? Am I wrong in saying that?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk about stepping stones, and I understand that's not an athletics job, but they're like, oh, we're not a stepping stone. We're a premier university and we're a blue blood and we're at the top. It's like, well, people leave your university to take other jobs that you would think in your mind are lesser than. So maybe reevaluate where you think you at. I know Washington is not a blue blood as much as I love my school, and I know that there's better jobs out there. I can live with that and be a realist about it.
Sergeant Pickles, a question in the chat. My impression with the rebuilding of Husky Stadium, the new baseball field, all kinds of stuff like that, is that she's done a lot of great stuff with facilities upgrades. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I'd say definitely during the 10. I don't know if it was always her at AD because obviously some of those things were being planned for decades, like the renovation to Husky Stadium. but that she definitely oversaw us through the completion a lot of those projects. I know our softball team, which is won a national championship recently. They're very good. They just got their own brand new field that they didn't have previously, and other facilities upgrades. They've really tried to step up their level and keep with the SEC and Big Ten entire, specifically with football facilities, but also athletics as a whole. And I think that she was a key driver in a lot of that.
And just for the record, USC does not have a softball team. And partly that's due to the real estate constraint. It's very valuable. It's expensive to just build a softball only field and facility. So
it would cost probably like $15 million just to build the field.
Yeah.
Well, they shoehorned that thing for us right along the lake. It's a beautiful spot. You should really come see it sometime.
You guys have such a beautiful campus.
We're very lucky that way, because I've seen the pictures of when they first picked out the campus. Downtown Seattle was nothing, and it was basically like the size of Pullman is today, and it was built in the middle of a forest right on the lake.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, but I'm really curious to see who they replace them with. I believe I want to say Oregon State's AD worked at UW for a while, if I'm not mistaken on that. I've heard that name floated around.
I think so. He's really good.
A lot of people clamoring for Chris Peterson, which I don't think he actually wants that job. He loved coaching football. He did not like dealing with boosters and politics. Right. He loved coaching ball. And he is very famously anti-NIL, so I don't think that would go over very well.
And the other thing, too, is, in all honesty, the numbers are so different. Like, there was an era when, you'd appoint your coach as your AD, and it was just kind of a thing that you did. But that's when athletic departments had like a $20 million budget. Now they have like a $200 million budget.
Yeah, definitely the landscape has changed. You see a lot of – and – I think that kind of says something about Jen Cohen, too, is that she's been with the university for 20-something years, back when you didn't have all this big-time money in college athletics, and it really seems like she was able to adapt, and I think that'll suit her very well going to SC.
Yeah, Gixxer Squid points out Jen Cohen has a documented history of various revenue-generating partnerships, apparel, beer, and more. Totally right. Great point to bring up. The only thing is, I just hope somebody makes sure she understands we're not doing that Adidas stuff.
Yeah, I mean, not my favorite either, but it is what it is. I think it was just our hesitancy to put a Nike logo on a UW uniform didn't quite sit right.
That's true. You guys really can't. There's a special little edge in that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not beyond taking a sum of Uncle Phil's money, but, I'm sure he would try and shortchange us in the deal somehow.
I'm sure.
Yeah. All right, guys, I gotta hop off, but it was good talking to you.
Thanks, Sergeant Pickles. Great to chat to you. Hey, we got USCJ in the chat. One of the best channels for USC stuff. USCJ does an amazing job.
What's up, Jerry?
Hey, I just thought we bring up just a couple other things that she talked about today. I thought she was really respectful in recognizing Washington. She talked a little bit about Washington, about how important Washington had been to her for 25 years. And it really, I thought, had a lot of authenticity. The three things she said, her why, what she loves to do. She said she loves to compete was the first one. And she said, get ready. And I heard from some of the Washington reporters, they said, get ready for sideline Jen. Apparently, and she made a little Pat Hayden dig where she said, well, I've never been penalized for it, though. so I did kind of laugh. Little things like that she peppered in, I thought really spoke to USC fans, that little bit. That was definitely a Pat Hayden reference.
Hey, guys, really quickly, Tony. So just a reminder, you guys, we have USCJ in the chat. We're going to be joining USCJ and John Walker on Friday at 4:00. So Rick, myself, and those guys, we're gonna do a preview. We should have a thumbnail up pretty soon. But thanks again to those guys who want to collaborate and have a great preview. So remember, you guys set your calendars. Friday, 4 p.m. This Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific, for a complete breakdown preview of the USC football season.
For sure, that's gonna be a great show. Anyway, the first thing she said, she loves to compete. Second thing she said is she loves to be part of a community. And third thing was she loves to help develop people. And I think that that's really something that's important because that's something that our athletic department had always not been as strong at. And the one lady who was notoriously strong at that went to jail for the admissions scandal. So that happened. And she talked about USC. She said, quote, USC is all about developing people into their best selves. This is a special place and a special time. And she talked about hitting her, foot on the gas. She said, where was it? She said, when you have this kind of momentum, there's no rest. You have to put in your gas and put your foot on the gas and accelerate to elevate. So, she's all about this elevating, moonshot, getting ready for the Olympics, winning national championships. She said USC expects to compete for national championships in all 21 sports. So that's what I like to hear.
I enjoyed listening to her speak about her parents, where she was raised or where she grew, where she was born. She's born in Arcadia. And for those viewers that are not from Southern California, that is basically Pasadena and Rose Bowl adjacent. Okay. And so she understood the importance of USC. She outlined that in her speech. Not only USC is a university and an athletic program, but in the crowded landscape that is Los Angeles athletics. USC is right behind the Dodgers and Lakers. They're ahead of all the other professional sports franchises and obviously UCLA football and basketball. So the fact that, like you'd mentioned, Tony, the quote about putting your foot on the accelerator, she understands the opportunity that's in front of her, and she is going for it. She respects it. She is ready for this opportunity, and she knows what USC can be and will be under the direction of Carol Folt. And now with full alignment with the university and going to the Big Ten, it's going to be time to rock and roll. It's a time that we've never seen before. I've had PTSD like a lot of Trojans. We've been doing so many things right for after a decade of doing so many things wrong and all these 1,000 cuts with all the scandals. It's like I have to shake myself sometimes. It's like, did this really happen? And what a day. It's really cool.
I'm excited for it. Oh, well, hey guys, we are. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Tim.
Well, no, I'm just going to piggyback on what Rick just said. USC is, and people hate it, but USC is uniquely positioned in this age of NIL, which is with our location and with our background, with a new commitment to football to really go on an unprecedented run, which really makes that whole thing. When you look at the history, you actually read about what happened when Pete Carroll was here and the lack of support he was getting. When you had a coach like Pete Carroll, and if he would receive the kind of support that guys like Saban get, or if you're at Ohio State, if you're the coach at Ohio State, or if you're the coach anywhere, pretty much in the SEC, the facilities and everything at USC were so backwards and run really quite poorly. The fact that he was able to do what he did is a testament to him as a coach and USC as a school. I am really excited to see having a great coach like Riley, having a visionary leader like President Folt, and her getting the people in position to go ahead and open up the pocketbooks and spend the money, and being positioned in Los Angeles with NIL and all the partnerships they have. I'm going to be really excited to see what USC can do over the next 10 years of football, especially joining the Big Ten.
Like I said last night on our show, Tim, last Thursday, Will Ferrell was on the football field, and the NCAA and the SEC, they were on the phone. You don't think they were on the phone then? How about today? It's basically you had everybody at that press conference. They're putting everybody on notice. Not only the Big Ten, but there's a little moonshot going towards the south, if you know what I mean. It's going down past the bayou down to Birmingham. Yes, it is. And they'll be getting scared because you know what happened on Labor Day 20 years ago? USC went down to War Damn Eagles, shut them out 23-0. That's what happened. And we're coming, SEC.
And what's nice
is here, but we're coming.
What's nice about it is that we're Fox's darlings. We are.
Right.
This thing's about a media. We are a brand, and they're not going to want to put us on probation. They're not going to want to bury us again like they did when they had to get rid of us with USC and Pete Carroll running the ball. It was just kind of a coincidence when they got rid of USC. Then all of a sudden, ESPN, the SEC got really, really popular. and became the brand of the whole entire country. So we were a bit inconvenient back then. They found a way somehow, I don't know, the kangaroo court to get rid of us, but we're back, and it's time for us to kick some ass and take names.
It was a kangaroo court.
Tim, you freaking nailed it, man. You called it right there. You did. 100%. You were absolutely right.
It's our time now, Rick.
It is our time.
What an exciting time. Well, hey guys, we are at about an hour. We said we'd go for an hour. We're out of callers. Any final thoughts here as we get ready to wrap up?
Nope, just happy that we're, like you said, like Rick said, we're acting like big boys again. And we all know what USC does when they got their crap together and act like big boys. So like I said, I can't wait to see what we do in the future.
I'll just add that we talked about USC has a ceiling higher than most programs, if not all, and the floor is higher than a lot. I think, was it Tony, the Texas guy, Kyle Umalong?
Yeah.
On Twitter, he came out with his blue blood update, and USC has all this different criteria from total wins, AP ranked, bowl wins, et cetera, et cetera. He has USC as the number one blue blood. And I know that's controversial, but his data, he's a data guy, and it shows it. So,
and he's a Texas data guy. He's not a USC guy.
There you go. He's a Texas data guy. But you take now where USC, and I've never seen USC in this particular state of awesomeness, from president all the way down to the athletic department, AD, coach, board of trustees, academically as well. This is amazing. And now we're going to the Big Ten. This is, the ceiling just got raised. The roof got raised. So Trojans, this is going to be a magical year. Get on it, sell out that Coliseum. And the first year in the Big Ten is going to be spectacular. So let's close out the Pac-12 with the last championship. We built this conference, and we're going to win this championship to close it out. And then we're going to the Big Ten. And we're coming towards you, SEC. Keep your eyes open. Keep your head on a swivel.
Rick, two things we keep hearing, Rick.
Yeah.
Moonshots and alignment. And
That's
if
right.
USC's hitting moonshots and alignment, you guys better watch your ass because we are coming, like you said, Rick.
That's right, man. And you know what? SEC, you can stay in your little NASCAR conference, and you can take a bus 200 miles round trip. I mean, take a look at Georgia's schedule. Come on. You know what? If you're bragging about first-round NFL draft picks and the most players going to the NFL, and this is what prepares you for the NFL, I'm sorry. But, you might be playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Your first road trip is going to be to Seattle, or you might have to go to London. So tell me how that bus ride from Tuscaloosa to, Oxford, Mississippi is going to prepare you.
Well, and it's going to be interesting. I'll tell you guys, when I was an 18-year-old, USC had this thing. I didn't think I was going to go to USC. I figured I'd go to Notre Dame or Michigan. And they had this thing. They would fly you and a parent out if they wanted you to interview for a scholarship. And so it was February and we lived in Michigan. So we took the free trip and went. And just fell in love with USC and the spirit of USC. And my mom was on the campus for like 5 minutes, and she said, "You're going to go to school here." And we all just fell in love with it. And I'll tell you the thing that I really felt today watching Jen Cohen, and I hope this works out, because I felt that she, in a lot of ways, kind of like Pete Carroll did, embodied that spirit of USC. And I felt like she understood USC and the people and our role. And USC is a place where anything is possible. I mean, USC, Mrs. Johnson spoke today. I met Mrs. Johnson when I was a stupid 20-year-old, and she was the vice chairman of Goldman Sachs. And I was in New York, and she invited me out for drinks. I mean, just an amazing lady that, just, again, embodies that spirit of the Trojan family and the spirit of USC. And I got the feeling today that Jen Cohen also understood that. And it's not just today. I felt that way about her for a while, which is why I had her on top of the list of people that I hoped we would hire. And guys, I guess we're going to find out, but I think Dr. Fold hit a home run right here.
Or maybe
Absolutely.
a moonshot.
There was
Or
no
maybe
mistake.
a moonshot.
There was no mistake that the press conference was today. the first day the students came back to school. And then, and then also going, 5 days until the first game. So not only did she show the spirit to the students, the athletes, the coaches, the student athletes, the teams, but now, the alumni are going to get to see her at the Coliseum on Saturday. And so is the rest of college football, who will be watching week 0. So, wow, USC's changed in a matter of a week. So pretty cool.
I love it. And just as we wrap up here, one last thing. Gixxer Squid points out Lincoln Riley, Caleb Williams, Jen Cohen. What's next? Reggie gets his trophy back. I'll tell you, Jen Cohen, if you happen to be watching, and I know you're not because you're probably at a party right now celebrating, but if you do happen to see this, the first thing you should do, in storage, there is a number 5 jersey that belongs in the peristyle. You don't have to say a word. Just hang it back in the peristyle.
You guys, by the way, so on Friday when I was at the campus, they had the 7 trophies, and then it's kind of displayed. It's been a while since I've been to Heritage Hall. They moved the bathrooms, everything in there. But you look, and there's a slot right there for number 8. Yeah, it's in the middle of them, right? It's lined up in like a row in a circle, and then you can see where the bolts are. You're just gonna slide security bolt it back onto the top there. It looks like it might be happening fairly soon. I'm just gonna say that I saw there's a spot for it.
I'll take it. So with that, guys, there's a new sheriff in town, and as LBC said, just one other thing I want to mention. We talked about Lincoln Riley as the Portal King, but I think LBC pointed out, LBC, you called her the Portal Queen, but I don't just think she's a queen. I think she's the Portal Empress. Because the Empress is above the Queen and the King. And do we have a new Portal Empress, LBC?
Do we?
I think we might.
Okay.
Is Dr. Folt the new Portal Empress?
Let's see it.
Dr. Folt, who went out and got us Jen Cohen, got us Lincoln Riley, got us, everything we need. I think we might have a new Portal Empress.
Stop the slideshow. We're not adding any teams.
I like it. Hey guys, thank you so much. It's been great to have you guys. Thank you for joining us. Stick around because in about a half hour is going to be Matt Zemek with USC Trojans Live. He's going to talk about all the things that happen with football teams this week and getting ready for the big excitement of USC's first game. We are also on Wednesday going to be previewing week 0 on the Pac-12 chat show, which will be kind of fun. So we hope you guys will join us then. All right, boys. Anything else?
Great day to be a Trojan. Fight on.
Fight on,
guys. We'll see you next week.